Thank you for coming. My name is Svetlana Popovic. I'm a moderator of this panel, and I'm art history professor in the art department. The audience will be, of course, encouraged to ask the questions. And I'm going to ask my panelists first question, but then you are encouraged to ask additional questions, and that's how our discussion is going to develop. Welcome to the panel. And my first question is related, of course, to the topic itself. Is economic crisis having catastrophic effects on arts and music? I'm asking all of you because we can read every day in the papers about closing of the galleries, about troubles in which museums are, about the funding of the art, which is lower and lower. And that is the same with music. Baltimore, for example, orchestra is in trouble, and some others. So please, will you give some examples of how the crisis really affects the art, and is it really catastrophic, as some people say? Barbara, would you be the first?
Surely. Well, this Sunday in the New York Times, there was an article about the recession in art. And one of the things they talked about was the big art auction houses like Sotheby's and Christie's. This is where your blue chip artists are going to go on sale and where your collectors are going to come to buy. It is guaranteed when the sales go on. The auction house guarantees the sale. They've lost so much money going to auction this year that most collectors now and sellers are going private as opposed to going through the auction houses, which have been very, very lucrative during the good times. Right now, they're expecting at the May auction only a little more than a third of what they got in the fall, which was down at that time. So it's changing the way art is being transferred. And when I'm talking about transferred, I'm talking about the blue chip artists. And blue chip artists are the artists that are established, that are selling at very high prices, like in $1 million. For instance, in November of '08, a Monet sold for $80 million. That's the kind of money I'm talking about, this passing of money. And so it's a major business, and a business that is having to change the way they do business.
Okay, Barbara, thank you. Tom, can you give us some examples from your experience?
Well, yes, of course, with what's going on with the economy, obviously, art and all the fine arts are really very, very hardly hit. The thing for individual artists to do, though, is to really push themselves. I know in New York, several artists get representatives, but like Barbara was saying, that it's really the blue chip artists that are the ones that are going to sell and get exhibitions and get museum shows, but even they are having a tough time at this point. So again, for the artists, you know, you really have to get media attention, newspapers, radios, local communities, things like that to get your name out there. And the other thing is to not be a one-trick pony or one-size-fits-all. An artist has to do their work to fit who they are, and hopefully it's something that would sell if that's what you're trying to do with your art. But times are very tough, and you know, it's the artists that are trying to start out today that isn't getting the exposure that one had gotten in the past. So.
Thank you, Tom. Gary, what is the situation in music sector?
Well, unfortunately, it's the same story. It's more of the same. One of the areas in music that's going to get hit first is the most expensive, and that is opera. Opera is the most expensive form of entertainment to produce because of the number of people that are involved, the amount of rehearsal time it takes, and the amount of equipment you have to have. It's a combination of theater as well as music. We have seen this in the past months. Our Baltimore Opera has closed, bankruptcy. After 58 years of performances, they're gone. Same with Orlando, Florida. They are nearly as old, and they've folded as well. Hartford, Connecticut, Orange County, California, Western Massachusetts, Atlanta, Georgia have all closed their local live opera companies. The thing that we have to be aware of and keep in mind is that it's not because there's been a decline in ticket sales. I was at the last performance that Baltimore Opera did, and the Lyric Theater, which I think seats close to 3,000 people, it's a huge place, was full. Every seat was gone. So they're selling the tickets, but they can't rely entirely upon ticket sales to meet the expenses. They rely upon corporate funding and individual donors. And that is what has dried up, is they're not getting the support from people that want to be patrons and support these groups, and they really feel the crunch because of that.
Thank you, Gary. Tammy, what's the situation in theater?
Well, surprisingly enough, it's not catastrophic. It's a challenge right now. Most of the musicals on Broadway have been on Broadway for a while, and those musicals that just opened are opening because they were a movie first, or it was a cartoon first. So people are familiar enough with it that they feel comfortable in spending $100 to see a show that they already pretty much know the storyline for, but are interested to see how it translates to the stage. Now, there were 9 shows that closed from January to February, but most of those shows were already scheduled to close. So although, yes, you know, Spring Awakening, which was a huge show, Hairspray, which was a huge show, closed, they were probably going to close within that time frame anyway. But there were some surprises that closed, things that, you know, producers thought would last a little longer. And it's the same with theater in the DC area. Although we have become the second most attended theater city. We have the most theaters that are getting the most attendance next to Broadway. So we passed Chicago to reach that goal. So people are going to the theater. It's just a matter of the theaters being creative in how they are marketing it, the ticket prices, and how much private funding that they're getting. Because it's not, same in music, it's not that we are depending mostly on ticket sales. If you look at Playbill.com, it lists all of the Broadway grosses, and for the most part, shows like Wicked are still bringing in $1.5 million a week, and they have 100% attendance. And those tickets are $120, $130 a piece. But people are willing to pay that if they're going to see their money up on the stage. So it's a challenge. In television and film, it's the same deal. I was just talking with somebody from the Independent Film Channel who works with marketing new independent films and television shows. And she said, you know, that they're not able to have the kind of budgets that they had before, and production projects are being put on hold. But there is an increase in webisodes, where they're developing television shows and putting movies together that will go strictly to the internet because it's cheap and it's cost effective. It's a lot cheaper to put that and to get an audience that might subscribe to it than it is to actually pay the $12 to go see a movie, and it may or may not be a hit. So there's more of an emphasis going towards the internet now. Theater is hard to do that because the whole point of theater is that it's live. So it's more of a challenge for us. I don't think it's a catastrophic crisis, but you know, if things continue the way they're going, you're not going to see the kind of quality that we have seen in the past come to light on stage.
Thank you, Tammy. Dawn, as a psychologist, can you comment this? This is an interesting what Gary said. Audience is coming, the theater is full, and